Good evening. Thank you, Will and Annika, for the very generous, kind introduction, and thank you guys for being here. We got a small event coming up tomorrow, right? So thank you for making time for it. When Mr. Schaefer asked me to come here to talk about the Tiananmen, I immediately said yes, for two reasons. Number one is I love to come back to Liberty Common. It's one of my favorite places in Colorado, and I love to come back here to meet some of my favorite people in the audience. And the second reason is I have a special connection with the Tiananmen, not because I know him personally, but when I was at the LPR 2013 class during the final competition for the Defender of Capitalism award, we all have to deliver a presentation, a 10-minute presentation. And during my 10-minute presentation, I told 3 stories. And the very first story I shared was the Tiananmen story. So I feel like him and I had this very special connection, and I'm very honored tonight to come back to one of my favorite places and talk about one of my favorite personal heroes. So speaking of a hero, what kind of image comes to your mind? Probably, especially for the kids in the audience, you probably think about someone with the superpower, maybe tight bodysuit, a cape, and even some cool technical gadget. But in real life, as I listed here as a title, not all heroes wear cape. And tonight we're gonna meet one of such heroes. So let me give you a little historical context about what led to the 1989 Tiananmen Square protest. So China, in 1949, the Communist Party won this civil war, and they defeated the Nationalist Party, established the Communist China. The Communist Party promised the Chinese people they are going to build a socialist paradise in China. Everybody will be equal, nobody will go hungry, everybody will have food, shelter, the government would provide everything. Well, in the next 30 years, close to 30 years, between 1949 to 1976, instead of giving Chinese people a socialist paradise, the Communist Party created a socialist hell. The economy tanked. There was widespread shortages of everything, especially on food. There was a disastrous famine. Millions of people died, including some of my family members. And also, there's such a social division, which I think is probably something most related to today. The Communist Party divided the people based on artificial socio-economic classes. And some classes were considered good, some classes were considered bad. So if your parents were Communist Party members, if they were PLA soldiers or factory workers, you were considered good social class. But if your parents were landowners or entrepreneurs, small business owners, then you were considered as a bad social class. So you may wonder, well, what happens with people in bad social class? When you are a member of the bad social class, people from the good social class get to discriminate you, get to physically and verbally abuse you. The police would not intervene, and the hospital would turn you away because they would feel if they treat you, they would got themselves into danger. So instead of this everybody equal society that the socialist paradise, what the Communist Party delivered is a society that's very unequal. And I want you to keep this in mind when I go into the slides. It's actually very personal to me because my great-grandfather was a landowner. So the Communist Party confiscated all the land from the landowners, abolished private property rights. And because he was classified as a landowner, then the rest of us, from his son to my dad to me, we all belong to this bad social class. And I was conditioned from very young that we were not created equal because people from a good social class, they were better. But I was classified into this social class not out of my own choice, not anything based on my own merit or character. It's all because this artificial identity out there. So that's what happened between 1949 to 1976. And what happened in 1976 was the dictator Mao Zedong, he died. After he passed away, his successors, some of them were more pragmatic. They realized in order to save the party, keep the party in power, they had to let the people enjoy a certain degree of economic freedom. So take a breather. But the party was very much insisted on no political freedom, because the party politically absolutely had to be in control. So between 1980 to 1989, that's the first 10 years of China's economic reform. Economic-wise, in 1989, people's living standard did improve quite a bit compared to under Chairman Mao. So I remember my family bought our first TV station, television. It was a black and white. Everybody's television looked the same because we only had one brand, one model. And you actually need a special coupon. Just because you have money doesn't mean you get to have a TV, because there's limited supply. So you have a special coupon to get the TV. And if you don't like it, there are hundreds of other people wanted that TV. And also the entire country had only one TV station run by the central government. So, and later I will show you why that's actually, there was one benefit come with it. But anyway, so in 1989, Chinese people economically was a little bit better off, but there are a lot of resentment and frustration, because once people are a little bit better economically, guess what? They want political freedom. They want to be able to speak out. They want to be able to make decisions in their life. For example, maybe they want to have more than one kid, and the government tells them, no, you're only allowed to have one. Maybe they want to choose a religious belief, but the government says, no, you cannot have any religious beliefs. You would be persecuted. So in this anxiety, resentment, and frustration, and one reform-minded Communist Party leader passed away in April 1989. In China, that's how, when people are so oppressed, sometimes they use public mournings, ceremonies of somebody passed away to express their frustration with what's happening currently. So that's what the people did. So the people gradually starting to go into Tiananmen Square, which was this giant square in the center of the Tiananmen, in center of the Beijing, right in front of the Tiananmen, which is the entrance to the Forbidden City. And first as a just display flowers to mourn this leader, but gradually students, mostly students from college, they gradually occupy the square from May to early June. And this is so interesting as I watching the current students, protesting. You hear all this condemnation about America. But back in 1989, you can see America's influence on Tiananmen Square everywhere. So here's the art students from our school. They imitated after the Statue of Liberty. They built their own version of the Chinese version of Statue of Liberty. And look at how she faced. She stared down the portrait of the dictator. That expressed how people really feel. And then you have kids holding banners, say liberty or long live liberty. We want freedom. There are all kinds of banners. And there's even more. The kids, these college students, they translated the Thomas Jefferson's Declaration of Independence into Chinese, and they read it over and over again through microphones on Tiananmen Square. Remember I mentioned earlier that we only had one TV station? So entire nations watch this one TV station. So the bureaucrats accidentally broadcast this to the whole nation. I was in junior high back then. It was my first time heard those magnificent words about all men are created equal, and we all have inalienable rights. And in my young heart, I was like, what do you mean? Like, I'm part of the bad social class. Like, how am I supposed to be created equal as somebody else? Is that really true? I didn't have all the grand ideas there yet. Those ideas came later, but those magnificent words, they transcend the culture. and they transcend the language. They plant some kind of seeds in my young heart. And not just my heart, I think it woken up many people's heart. Another thing that you can see Americans' influence is the students, they modeled their political demand based on US Constitution. So they wanted to sit down with Communist Party leaders, say, we want to have freedom of speech. We want to have free press. We want to have elections. We don't like one-party rules. Let us vote for our leaders. Let us have a say in our own fate, in our own future. And you can see America's influence everywhere through that protest. Unfortunately, that only been going on for a while. Then the Communist Party decided, you know what? We cannot let this go on, became a threat to our rule. And the party, throughout its bloody history, it has shown it's willing to do anything to maintain its power. So that fateful night finally came. So the Communist Party first imposed the martial law, and then on the evening of June 3rd, they sent the People's Liberation Army soldiers, which is kind of ironic because the People's Liberation Army soldiers, from their name, they're supposed to serve the people, not to train their guns and tanks towards the people. But that's exactly what the party did. They sent the People's Liberation Army soldiers to Tiananmen Square to order people to leave. If they don't, they're going to start shooting indiscriminately. Actually, later on, from later historical records, it shows the soldiers didn't just start killing on the square. They actually started shooting to adjacent area too. So there were people who were killed or injured who were not even on the square. So the killing started at the evening of the June 3rd, and it lasted into the morning of June 4th. And here you can see a picture of the tanks try to stop people who, most people still riding bicycles and try to go into work on June 1st in the morning. And here, this is the next picture will show you, this is how the morning after the soldiers, killed and removed the bodies, and now all the tanks occupy the Tiananmen Square. That, remember the earlier image you showed, they were so crowded, there were statues, there were banners, and all those things are gone. That's how quickly the party would erase the history. So now, let's meet our hero. So this happened on June 5th. So by then, the news of soldiers are killing people indiscriminately has already spread it out. So everybody knew that the soldiers have orders, like if you put yourself foolishly forward, you're gonna get killed, okay? So this happened the day after. So everybody already knew back then that you had to be crazy to stand in front of soldiers. But then we have this one person who was crazy. His image seems very small, so I want you to focus a few details. First is his outfit. He wear like a white shirt and a black pants, which was a typical outfit back then for ordinary male citizens. So it seems that he's from a very ordinary background. And he held some kind of plastic bag in his hand, looks like a very typical grocery bags. So in China, I remember back then, people usually go to the market in the morning to buy fresh produce and breakfast to bring home. So it seems to me, this young man, he did not leave his house, decided to be a hero or stand in front of tanks. He left his house that morning just to go about his life. And he already heard the news that the soldiers are killing protesters. Yet, when he saw rows of tanks coming down the street, he did the things that most of us consider crazy. He chose to take a stand, walk towards the front of these rows of tanks. This next image is a wider image. I think it is even more powerful because in this closer image, you only saw 4 tanks. But in this wider lens image, you saw he did not just stop 4 tanks. He stopped dozens of tanks. And if you go to YouTube to watch the video, like the tanks tried to move around him, and he kept moving himself in front of the tanks. Even the soldiers did not know what to do, at least initially, so they came to this impasse. Again, I want you to put yourself there, imagine this. This is 2 days after the mass killing. At least 3,000 people died or injured. Everybody knew what could happen. Yet, on this giant square, this one person, wear ordinary clothes with no capes, no tight bodysuit, no fancy helmet, with just grocery bags, ordinary outfit, he took a stand, put himself in front of rows of tanks, and he stopped, at least temporarily, a dozen of tanks from moving forward to kill other people. He's not crazy. Only someone who has the strongest desire to live, who's willing to sacrifice himself in this way. So if you go watch the video later, some of the bystanders pulled him away. We do not know what happened to him. Then yes, the tanks eventually moved forward, and more people were killed, and more people were persecuted in the months and years followed. I didn't know this picture existed. In fact, back then, I only heard the rumors. There were some kind of a killing happened at Tiananmen Square, but you can only talk in whispers because nobody provided any evidence. I did not see this photo until many years later when I came to United States. But before that, Tiananmen Square changed a lot of people, including me, even though I was too young to comprehend its historical context. But from what I heard about Declaration of Independence, about those political demands, about all men are created equal, I decided I want to go to that place. I want to go to that place that I'm not a bad social class member, not out of my own choice. I was equal. I was created equal about somebody else, and I have inalienable rights. That's the place I want to be. And that's when I started studying English hard. So here's a little bit about my journey. Here was me in junior high. It's not a very good picture. It's the only picture I could find. It's black and white because most people did not have a camera back then. So it's very rare we got our pictures taken. So I came to the United States in 1996 as a college student going to grad school. And from there, you heard a little bit in my introduction. From there, I got a degree. I started get a job. But up till 2013, I was still just a typical immigrant who's busy, make a living, make my American dream happen. And then two things magically happened in 2013. One is I joined the LPR program, the leadership program of the Rockies. I cannot possibly get this wrong. Leadership program of the Rockies. It's the very first time that I get to study Declaration of Independence and U.S. Constitution and also principles of liberty under Mr. Schaefer and the many great instructors very systematically for 9 months. So that's one thing. Another thing is in 2013, I became a U.S. citizen. Thank you. I choose those two pictures not only because they are mark two different milestones, but I thought they also represent two very different lives. One of them was black and white, fuzzy, even though we're still, I looked like I was smiling there, but I was unsure. I was destined to live, bless you. I was destined to live one kind of life that not necessarily out of my own choosing. But then the other picture shows everything's colorful. I had this big smile. I get to choose to become an American. And I told my husband that that's one of my happiest days. I used to say it's my happiest day. Then he reminded me, maybe that your wedding anniversary should be your happiest day. So now I have to change. When I introduce this picture, I have to say it's one of my happiest days. It feels like a rebirth. So what does the Tiananmen teaches us? Why did Mr. Schaefer put those pictures of a young man standing in front of rows of tanks, even in elementary schools? What does this all mean? Why do we need to see this? Shouldn't we shield the kids from seeing violence or possibility of violence? Well, I think what the Tiananmen photo is showing us is not about violence. It's about somebody who stands up to violence. And it's about how to be a hero. Because in real life, most heroes are ordinary people who choose to do extraordinary things when the moment comes. And we may all have that moment, or we may not. But nowadays, we're living in similarly challenging time. Not all of us have to stand in front of tanks. I hope not. I mean, I honestly do not have the courage to stand in front of dozens of tanks myself. But there are other things that we can do. So do you want to be a hero? All right. There are a couple of different ways. In today's day and age, being a hero could just mean speak the truth. Here's one of my favorite quotes from George Orwell. By the way, if you have not read Animal Farm, 1984, please do yourself a favor, grab a copy. And George Orwell said, during the times of universal deceit, telling truth becomes a revolutionary act. That's why I write and speak, because in our challenging times, speaking out, writing something truthful, it's become a revolutionary act. You're gonna get attacked, somebody gonna attack you, somebody gonna cancel you, and sometimes those verbal attacks could even turn into a physical attack. But you cannot stop doing that, because that part about being a hero, being a human being, that you speak the truth. Another way to be a hero is to live not by lies. And this is also from a quote from one of my personal heroes. He's from the Soviet Union, and he was exiled by the Soviet Union to Gulag. And when he got out, he came to the United States. And just like me, he was shocked by how much people here are willing to embrace the ideology that he considers evil, which is the Marxist-Leninism, ideology that demand that everybody submit to one party's will. So he gave a fantastic speech at Harvard. He did not mince words. And then he wrote this fabulous essay. It's only like 3 pages. I encourage you to read. It's called Live Not by Lies. And he basically gives some really good, detailed example about how do you live an honest life, live your life not by lie. And that, even though maybe sounds passive, but it's a heroic act in the challenging times. One of the examples he gave is never repeat a lie. Nowadays, if I go out there with a microphone, say men and women are different, I'm probably going to get canceled immediately. There are going to be people challenging me. But I will never repeat the lie that the men and the women are the same. That's not the same level of a heroic act as standing in front of dozens of tanks. But in our challenging times, I would challenge you. That's your way to take a stand, is speak the truth and at least never repeat and broadcast, repost something that that's not true. And the third way, now we're talking about superheroes. One of my favorites, Captain America. Can we all read this together? Because I find this is such a fabulous quote. It is so inspiring. I say 1, 2, 3. Let's all read this together. How about that? Okay. 1, 2, 3. This nation was founded on one principle above all else: the requirement that we stand up for what we believe, no matter the odds or the consequences. When the mob and the press and the whole world tell you to move, your job is to plant yourself like a tree beside the river of truth and tell the whole world, no, you move. I love Captain America. Choose justice American way. I want to close with this. If the world with no heroes, then evil will win. And we all have capacity. Even a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old kid, we all have this capacity within ourselves to be a hero. Being a hero does not mean you have to stand in front of rows of tanks. Being a hero is about, especially in our time, in this country, being a hero nowadays means speak the truth, never repeat a lie, and always take a stand. Stand up for something that's true and beautiful, and stand up for the weak, and stand up against the evil. And if we can all do that, then we're going to continue to live in this beautiful country. We're going to continue to have a beautiful country, and everybody can live their American dream. So now let's all go to be heroes. Thank you.